Right, so bit late with this review because I didn't quite manage to watch the Argentina All Blacks game live. Well, I mean, I did watch it live on the mobile, but I mean, it was kind of disrupted at something else on. So I thought best to watch it before I put my thoughts together through and watch the game properly. And yeah, I guess it's me, and I think that's in this age now, Scott, where you can change the speed, the playback on on replays, like to or like on YouTube or even Sky Sports now has that function where. Yeah, like I think I'm probably glad that exists for the second half because certainly the first part of the second half was a tough watch. Yeah, look, let's get away with the negatives anyway since we're on it. I mean, yeah, not the greatest All Blacks game, but I mean it's a win that we more than happily take. Particularly given what happened earlier, a couple of hours before in Johannesburg, South Africa, which, of course, I'll talk a bit more. Wallabies, of course, pulling off a really sensational comeback in the second half against the Springboks at Fortress Ellis Park. But look, I'll talk a bit more about that. But yeah, so, I mean, it's not going to go down as one of the vintage All Blacks games, but most games don't anyway. I mean, it's a win. It's a win against a Pumas team which was competent, I'd say. Showed some glimpses, but I think for some reason seems to have gone down since that win against the British and Irish Lions in Dublin, which I guess now kind of puts you've got to put that game in perspective and what's transpired since. Look. Yeah, which I guess is kind of a bit disappointing if you're, particularly in like somewhere like Cordoba, like they're playing at the Estadio Mario Kempes, and bit of an anorak fact. For those of you who didn't know, Mario before there was before Lionel Messi, and even before Diego Maradona, there was an Argentine player called Mario Kempes, and he was like the hero when they won the 1978 World Cup. Look, I can do another whole video about that World Cup because it's pretty interesting, and I think Dutch people might find that a bit might not like appreciate, might not like talking about that one. But anyway, yeah, so certainly playing in like the Estadio Maria Kempes in Cordoba, in sort of the Argentine heartland, you thought, yeah, you'd expect the Pumas to really kind of show some pride, put it out, but yeah, look, it just never quite transpired that way. The All Blacks were excellent right from the All Blacks started well in the first half. They defended really, really well. I think the one thing that you could say is the defense is absolutely outstanding from start to finish. I mean, yeah, there was that yellow card to Proctor, but although that's not really down to Proctor himself, it had sort of been. It was one of those yellow cards that sort of had been coming. But yeah, like defensively was good. Will Jordan, I guess, was excellent, but and I certainly for me probably was the player of the match. Along I guess Adi Savio was terrific as ever, playing back in his number 8 position. But yeah, look, I mean the backs. I mean there was some great. I mean, Will Jordan was pretty much behind all the the great stuff. Certainly the double to Sevu Reece, who I thought was okay. Still have a questions whether he is the number 1 choice going forward, but yeah, he got a double, so he did his job. So what more can you say? But I mean, for me, Will Jordan certainly sparked things. Cortez Ratimer, wearing the number 9 jersey in lieu of Cam Roygaard, did really well and actually looked a bit like Cam Roygaard Mark II. He was sniping around the fringes a lot well. His box kicking was excellent, and I think the All Blacks sort of missed his zip and speed when he came off. I mean, look, I'm not going to join the brigade and really hate on Finley Christie. I think he's still a really solid halfback and still has some use for the All Blacks. My only annoying, I guess, certainly in game management, he was there, but yeah, look, I think it's evident when there's a difference, like when Ratimer, or it's not like Ratimer Roy come off, and then Finley Christie comes on. He's just there to manage the game. Doesn't even box kick, which is that's another annoying thing, but. Yeah, I guess certainly Christie did an adequate job, and I certainly not. He's not going to be the future starter. I think we'd be in big trouble unless it was rainy conditions and all that. But yeah, certainly, I think once Roy Gart's fit, you can safely say he'll take that number 9 spot. Ratton will go back to the bench. But yeah, look, all in all, yeah, I mean, it's a good win. As I said, the second half was the first part of the second half was pretty ugly, to be honest. And I guess I said, yeah, probably glad that there's the option to. Well, actually, there's the option to speed it to 3 times speed on Sky. Probably good. We could do that for the first 20 minutes. I think it was probably down to, I guess, Argentina. Obviously, we're always going to come out of the sheds more motivated to put on a much better performance at home in the second half. But also, yeah, a lot of changes on the bench. It kind of felt like the All Blacks were a bit tired. Of course, they've had to make the big journey to Argentina. Although they did spend a week here before this game. Yeah, they had the substitutions, and yeah, it was I think it was arguably, in terms of not a good advertisement for Test rugby. The first part of the second half. Then you had the Proctor yellow card. So I might maybe that's a bit hard. There was a great try to Albanos, the Argentine number 10, who looks like a really really decent player there. Probably the only bright spot in that first, the first part of the second half. But yeah, ultimately the All Blacks, after once they were back to the full complement, they finished the job. And I guess that's one more can you ask. Not every test rugby match, not every international test has to be a test match from heaven, and this certainly isn't one that's. I think this is one that's probably going to be left at St. Peter's Gate. But I guess having said that, yeah, when I guess when you win and there's a lot of, and there's still plenty of improvement to come, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I'm expecting, I think, by and large, yeah, I think you'd probably look to keep much of this team going into the next game in Buenos Aires. Unless, of course, injuries pursue. I mean, Takiaho had a great performance off the bench. I thought he was certainly the pick of the players off the bench. Certainly want to see a bit more of Tupou Vaa'i at number 6. I think the leadership thing's pretty well. Interesting to see, Tui Pelotu came on quite early on in the second half. We saw Anton Leonard-Brown come in for at midfield. Proctor never came back on, so I mean to see that, I guess we're still some time away from seeing a return for Lester Panuku. So yeah, it's for now. I guess can Anton Leonard-Brown? I guess it's Anton Leonard-Brown and Proctor for that 13 jersey. So yeah, I'd say I think it'd be harsh to give it B. I'd say an A- performance by the All Blacks, and yeah, but a win's a win. Especially when you consider that the Springboks are, they didn't win as expected. So, yeah, so certainly a great start for the All Blacks. Quick mention about, of course, look, I think it is very clear that the game at Ellis Park, a couple of hours before between the Springboks and Wallabies, certainly a more memorable occasion that game. It's certainly a shock, a result that not many people would have predicted. I don't think. Look, I guess maybe we should have had a bit more faith in the Wallabies, given that they just come out of the Lions series, given that they were match fit. I mean, South Africa were playing. No offense, they were playing likes Italy, was it Georgia or Portugal? But yeah, certainly lesser quality opposition, but I thought when they always Fortress Ellis Park for some a Wallabies team that hadn't won in over 10 years, you thought the Springboks would have done it, and they looked like when they were 22-0 up, it certainly looked like it was gonna be as you were, but yeah, after Pesh scored pulled one back. It's a shit. Looks like he's remains to be see what happens with his status. He did look like he suffered a jaw injury, so we'll have to find out more. It might be a broken jaw, and if that's the case, then he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. But yeah, look, even without him, yeah, look, Harry Wilson was was outstanding. Fraser McRae, Lenny Qatar was great, and then yeah, you had. It was a really outstanding Wallabies performance, and particularly at altitude, you'd normally think the home side would have the edge over the tourists, but at the end of the day, it was really the Wallabies who looked like they were the home team playing at Ellis Park. And yeah, it's a shock that the Wallabies managed to keep the world champion Springboks scoreless for let's say it's almost 40 plus almost a good hour I think nearly an hour. So yeah, that is something that will certainly tell you what, definitely one of the greatest ever wins for Australian rugby. And yeah, I guess maybe backs the promise that they showed in the British and Irish Lions series. And yeah, I guess they now, if what the Wallabies can make it 2-0 in Cape, 2 wins out of 2 in Cape Town. Wow, this Rugby Championship certainly has turned itself on its head, and maybe we're not gonna get our sort of like World Championship fight in Auckland and Wellington. So yeah, that I think South Africa will be very upset with the way they perform, and there will be some changes to the side to freshen things up. I think, yeah, but I mean, it's safe to say you definitely cannot write the Wallabies off anymore. And my prediction that they'll finish last in the Rugby Championship is looking a bit not great at the moment. But yeah, that's the opening weekend of the Rugby Championship. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and of course, if you like this video, feel free to like, and don't forget to subscribe.